right, so welcome, Jesse, to the Deep Life podcast.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, we're really excited to kind of get into this and see what kind of rabbit holes we can find ourselves in.
Indeed.
But, to get started, could you just share a little bit of your background and how you got to the space where you're at now, and we'll go from there.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd love to. So my name is Jesse. You already introduced me, but so a little bit about me. I am a board certified licensed acupuncturist and herbalist. I have a doctorate level education in acupuncture and oriental medicine. So I've studied for many, many years, right? I run a holistic health clinic in southern Wisconsin, in which I specialize in acupuncture, herbal medicine. I'm also a Reiki healer, a sound healer, dabbling in this concept of quantum healing, right? So there's a lot of different credentials that kind of back me up.
So you only do a few things.
Only a few, right? And prior to that, in my early 30s, I kind of left a whole career behind in the hospitality industry and knew that I was supposed to go into some sort of healing world, right? Growing up in the US and kind of being initiated through a Western allopathic medical system, I thought, okay, I want to go back and be a doctor. This is what I want to do. And I had my sights set on becoming an emergency room doctor because I wanted to be able to handle anything, right? Anything that came in. That was very short-lived when I realized there would be no way that I would be able to look at an open wound and not pass out, right? So that idea kind of got pushed to the side, but I was studying an undergrad in pre-med, like health science. So I completed that degree. And shortly thereafter, through a whole variety of circumstances, my eyes were opened to acupuncture and oriental medicine. So I had used those modalities for my own health challenges with amazing success. And it was kind of like a light bulb went off. And as soon as I finished that undergrad, I went into a master's program in acupuncture and oriental medicine. So I studied for several years, got my license, opened my clinic. I love what I do. I have treated thousands of people over the past several years now. I continued my education to the doctorate level. And I think that learning should never stop, right? So I just kind of kept going. And it continues to go, even though I'm not in a school setting. Through treating all of these patients, I started to see common themes and common situations that were playing out. Specifically, number one, most people come to me for pain, right? It's well known that acupuncture is highly beneficial for pain conditions. But there's usually an emotional component that goes along with pain, and they play off of each other quite a bit, right? So what I really started to see was this recurring theme in all of these people, no matter what they were coming in to see me for. And I started labeling it as their anxiety. Anxiety has this negative connotation that we put on it, right? We think of anxiety as being something bad because it elicits a feeling that we're uncomfortable in. But anxiety, as I see it, is just an indicator. It's a message. It's a signal to an individual that something's out of balance, right? And when something is out of balance, you try to figure out how to fix it. And one of the great things about traditional medicines is that they all emphasize balancing the body's energetic systems. So, in seeing all this anxiety that's coming from people like overthinking, a bunch of fears, worries, obsessions, compulsions, I realized that they were just generating this energy, this frequency in which they were existing. So from that came this pretty clear idea to me that anxiety is really just a frequency. It is a frequency state in which we are operating, right? And sometimes it's more uncomfortable than other times. Sometimes it can be completely debilitating for some people. Other times it's just this subtle, constant energy that's like tapping us in the back of our brain saying like, hey, hey, hey. But that tapping is always just a message. And if we are open to actually understanding what the message is, then we unlock all of this amazing healing potential, not just of the physical body, but also mind and soul. So this is kind of like the foundation of what I work with. I work with energy and frequency, and I see these four main categories that are really important for us to all kind of look at in our own lives in order to understand ourselves better, which is physiological, like our physical body, and I'll touch on this more in a second, energetic, a category that I call here and now, and then the final ultimate category is highest timeline. Physiological is like, okay, so we are souls in a human body. The human body is a machine with a lot of different parts that need a lot of different things in order to function correctly. Mm-hmm. So we're talking like vitamins and minerals, nutrition, the food, good water, sunlight, sleep, exercise. These are all things that our body requires in order to function at its best. And if we're deficient in any one of those or any combination of those things, the physical body tells us. It tells us through a sensation. Things start to wear down or break or fall apart. So that physiological component creates a frequency that is often interpreted as being anxious. Mm. Energetically, we have Chinese medicine is all based off of our meridian system of qi, or vital force energy, right? We have the chakra system, which also regulates many aspects of how we function. And when those systems are out of balance, we're going to get signals again, and we're going to feel something. The here and the now part is something that I've been coming to understand a little bit more recently, which is when our mind is going and when it's off in all these other places, we're not actually present in the here and the now.
Yep.
That creates a huge disconnect for us because we're intended to be operating in the here and the now. That's the human experience. The whole human experience is lost in many regards by being stuck in either the past or the future or wherever our brain is taking us. So I think that's a huge factor in the way that people are operating and how they feel about themselves, physically and emotionally. The highest timeline, I say that's kind of like the ultimate category, because what I've realized in my own life and what I see happening in many other lives is that a lot of us are feeling this urge or this desire to level ourselves up and get to something bigger and better, right? You can see this in the physical, like, training world, right? People are wanting to get bigger and better. You can see it in the energetic healing world where you want to learn more so that you can get better. We're always, whether we realize it or not, being drawn towards that highest timeline. And I think that that's kind of like the ultimate win in the game of Earth, is to transcend up to that highest version of ourselves, right? But if we're not there, sometimes it's glaringly obvious how it makes us feel. Other times it's just like this, again, like I said before, this current of disconnect or this energy that's being created because we're not there.
100%.
So in my practice, coming full circle, now that I've rambled for a few minutes, because I do this.
No, that's a great explanation.
I see an opportunity for my own personal mission to bring all of this to light for as many people as possible, and and help as many people as possible to get to that highest timeline. So I've developed a virtual like coaching program so I can reach more people. It's one-on-one. It's very much unique to each individual person that I'm working with. But it ties in all of these tools and techniques and concepts and nutrition and lifestyle and supplements and herbs and all of these things so that we can peel back all the layers that are stacked up above us, preventing us from actually getting to that highest timeline.
Definitely. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's a great answer.
I say that, yes, and there's so much to unpack there. I feel like we could
Right.
go. No, I love it, and everything makes 100% sense to us. And I feel like that's kind of where we are right now. We're approaching a higher timeline than we anticipated, because I've said this on the podcast before, like we used to live in California and now we're here in Massachusetts right now, just because my mom is going through some health issues, and we're kind of in this in-between phase. But yet the growth that Dan and I have gone through in the past like 8 months, even though we're not physically moving,
yeah,
the evolution of our consciousness and like what we're being taught, just almost manifesting. We'll have a question, we'll kind of talk about it, and then the next day it will just be answered, whether that's in a TV show, on social media, a conversation. It's like, okay, I see the power that I'm stepping into as like co-creator of this universe. That is the most beautiful thing, to relinquish my victim mentality that I like to hold on to for so long. So let's kind of jump into that, because that's not special to you, me, and Dan. Mm-hmm. Everybody has this power and this potential and this idea of how we can co-create in this new earth. And I'd love you to talk about that and kind of talk about the differences between the third dimensional reality that we're living in and then ascending, that ascension process, and what the 3D is compared to the 5D, and where we're all kind of moving, or at least some of us are moving who are aware or awake to this concept. But even if they're not, how can we gently nudge them in the direction of politely asking them to think of the world in a different way?
Yeah, I love all of that. And I love this question and what it can bring to the table for everybody. So there are so many facets of this reality that we are not tuned into until we consciously try to tune into it, right?
Yes.
At the same time, there are forces of the universe, of nature, of Earth, of the galaxy, of the entire universe. There are forces and elements at play that we are completely unaware of, that it's almost inescapable for anybody on this planet to not start to feel the effects of what is happening on a macro scale.
Absolutely.
So when I say that, I say that knowing that there are probably a lot of people on this planet who hearing that phrase alone are perhaps like, what?
Yeah.
What's that?
Yep.
So I think that once we have our mind open to these concepts, there's a certain responsibility that comes along with it to not only allow it benefit for ourselves, but then to figure out the ways in which we can help influence as many people around us as possible, right?
Yes.
Which is what you just touched on. So I see it's like, which path should we go down first?
All of them. We'll follow your direction.
So there are the way I see things and the way that I understand things, and from all of my readings and all of my knowledge, and I will also say this, in the recent years, I have really started to understand my intuitive capabilities. A lot of information kind of like downloads and streams to me, and I've learned how to decipher what is what, right? And
Yes.
what's valuable, what's important, what's for me, what's for you, what's the message that I'm supposed to be hearing. So there are many dimensions of reality. There are many timelines of every single soul's existence. Some will say that all of creation is already in place and that every possible combination of events is waiting for us. We just have to choose to get it and to meet with it.
Yeah. It's like merging with that frequency that's already there.
Right. On kind of like a galactic level, one of the things I had mentioned before about the physiological needs of the body is sunlight.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So here's a concept for you. At the moment an egg is fertilized, there is a documented spark of light that engulfs the entire fertilized egg, right? What that tells us is that fundamentally, from the minute we are conceived, we are light.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the Chinese medicine meridian system and the Ayurvedic chakra system, they're all building off of that initial spark of light.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of makes sense that we respond to sunlight,
Right.
because we are light.
Yeah.
So there are many theories that our DNA responds to sunlight, to concentrated photonic energy. And the more concentrated photonic energy we absorb into our body, the more activation potential occurs within our DNA.
Mm-hmm.
So all of this DNA that we consider to be dormant, or it doesn't do anything.
The junk DNA.
Right. So maybe it actually does do something. It's just not had the opportunity for a really long time to be turned on.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's well known and documented that currently our sun is going through massive changes in its own frequency and its own energy output. In the past couple of months, beginning of February of 2023, the largest and most powerful solar flares started erupting from the sun ever recorded.
Yep. I saw that.
Yeah. So even the ones that aren't facing directly at us, the energy that is propelled outward, it wraps its way around the sun, and it does eventually get to the earth. The ones that are pointed at the earth are like supercharged beams of energy coming at us. So this is a natural ascension that is happening within the sun and within our galaxy that is directly influencing Earth and Earth's inhabitants. So there are billions of people on this earth. Certainly not everybody is at the same stage of the game, right? But
right.
I do not believe that anybody is going like unaffected, and not affected in a bad way, but like everybody is feeling something from what is happening with our sun. Those of us who perhaps have spent more time in our own conscious awakening and our own conscious ascension, perhaps are feeling it even more and more tuned into it. And just that alone allows us the opportunity to start sharing that energy with as many other people as possible. Because the more of us that tune into what's happening on a very different scale than what we are used to zooming in on, the better, because that energy is going to be contagious. It's going to transfer from one person to another to another.
Yeah, I love that.
So in regards to, you had mentioned something at the beginning of this question about, how do we gently ask, or how do we, I think we lead by example. We become the leaders. We
You're
share
right.
the knowledge. We don't hold anything to ourselves, because, why would we?
Right.
Exactly. I think I'm really trying to tap into that, because I
Yeah.
have been such almost a people pleaser my whole life that I'm petrified of giving these new perspectives and ideas about the world that I've newly found in the past, 3, 4, 5 years, that people are going to think I'm crazy.
Right.
But now I'm understanding that that's what makes me unique. And my truth is going to resonate with some people and not with others.
Yep.
And yeah, it's funny because I wrote this down and I was going to save it till we ended, but you had said that you were in hospitality for years.
Yes.
What did you do? I used to work for hospitality. I used to work for Hyatt hotels.
Okay. So I ran corporate chain restaurants in the Chicago area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. That's funny. I just say that because I was in hospitality, and I was in hotel sales. So I booked like meeting and events. So it was very salesy. Then I went to real estate. So I've been on this trajectory of sales, sell. So I almost feel like I need to sell myself and sell my point of view for people to get it.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was as I'm taking the quantum healing hypnosis classes, I'm very similar. And I think Dan is pretty similar too, where you said you get a lot of intuitive downloads, and some are for yourself and some are for others. And it's kind of being able to distinguish, okay, this message is for me. This is one that I need to put out to the world. I was in meditation one day and I was getting like, oh my gosh, like none of my family or friends want to do this quantum hypnosis. I mean, it's no joke. I get it. It is, it can be intense and beautifully healing and has amazing rewards. But if you're not willing to, go that deep, understand. And I'm sitting there thinking like, how am I going to sell this to people? Like, how do I explain this? And I got the download. You don't need to find people. They'll find you.
Absolutely.
And I was like, just there, it was like mic drop. It was almost like a weight off my shoulders. It was like the universe telling me like, stop selling anything.
Yes.
You're good. They'll come to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think go ahead.
I was just that ties in with what you were saying before, where you snuck in there that it's inescapable for everybody. Like these energies are shifting, like we're lifting to new dimensions, or however you want to describe it. If you look around the world, it's obvious. Like things are changing dramatically, however you want to look at it. If you're looking at like business, you're looking at finance, you're looking at food supply, if you're looking at just how people are doing and technology, and every element of the world is changing and all these systems are crumbling. And to tie back into what you were saying before, like you have all these people coming to you with like pain, and you notice that it's underlying, it's a energetic thing, it's anxiety, it's something is telling them something's wrong, you're not on the right path, or you're out of alignment with who you are. And like some people are going to feel that little nudge and like, oh, I need to make dramatic changes. And then other people are like, oh, this is uncomfortable. How do I numb it out? But the change is kind of happening anyway.
Absolutely. The phrase that just came to my mind as you were speaking is shifting our mentality from things are happening to me to things are happening for me and because of me.
Yes,
right?
yes.
And you had mentioned, Elise, before, like getting out of victim mode.
Yeah.
It's not happening to us as a punishment or anything. It's everything is happening and unfolding under a much more divine plan, and we'll call it a schedule, right? Like the schedule of events say that ascension is taking place. So when we work the mindset and shift it often enough away from the why is this happening to me, and we shift it to, what is this telling me? It changes everything.
It really does.
But the last few hundred years, the focus has always been, no, let's zero in on what's happening to you. Let's just obsess over that. Let's just zoom in on this one thing. And hey, you know what? Maybe you could just take a pill for it.
Yes.
It'll be easier for you to just kind of sit to the wayside and not partake. And that to me is number one. I mean, I find it to be kind of like a disturbing thing that's how so much of the population operates.
Yes.
And under that set of knowledge. And it can be really kind of like overwhelming and frustrating to me sometimes, because like you, I feel like I want to get the message out to as many people as possible, but somebody who isn't ready to hear it isn't going to be ready to hear it.
Yes.
Just because I want them to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all good people. We want to, help. It's like, I want to take away pain. I want to take away suffering. I want to take away this. And Dan used to always remind me of the Ram Dass saying or quote. What is it? Yeah.
But it's like, that's their suffering. It's, who are you to take away somebody else's suffering? Because like you said, it's not happening to them. It's happening for them.
Yes. And it took me a while to grasp it, but then it's like, all right, I've just got to let them be. And I've simply got to be like the loving awareness that he also says, where I'm just projecting that energy out and hopefully they'll absorb it.
Yes. It's so interesting that you just said that, because I was at the same time thinking of how when we embody this concept of being the light, right? We are existing within a frequency that we create for ourselves that is saying like, I am light. I am something divine and mighty and powerful. And that ties in to my concept of quantum healing and the quantum world, right? Because every feeling, every word, every action that we partake in or that we speak is creating a frequency. It's creating an energetic signature. And the more often we are creating that energetic signature in our closest energetic field, the bigger that frequency starts getting around us. And so then it starts creeping into the what I call the bigger quantum net that's connecting everything in existence. And the idea of what you put out is what you attract. So if you're constantly putting out this frequency of negativity or fear or anger or whatever, that's what the universe is going to see you as, and it's going to start sending more of it your way. And if you're in deep, it's hard to pull yourself out.
Yeah,
it is. And it's and then when you've pulled yourself out, you recognize the people that are just in it.
Totally.
And it breaks my heart, but it's, again, their journey.
Parenting can be stressful and even overwhelming, especially if you have an overly sensitive child. What if there was a way to better understand, guide, and nurture your child's unique sensitivity and emotional intelligence to set them up for success on their developmental journey? Rooted Rhythm's signature course, Tuned In, offers a transformational process for parents of highly sensitive, super feeling, wise, and empathetic children. Dan and I don't have children of our own, but we were both highly sensitive children growing up. And we know firsthand how difficult it can be to feel and process emotions in a productive and constructive way at such a young age. Recently, having gone through the Tuned In course, we both took away so much valuable information and practical tools we could utilize to reparent ourselves and to understand how to better use our sensitive nature to deepen our connection to ourselves as well as the world around us. The Tuned In course teaches parents concrete skills to meet their sensitive kids' needs in moments of intensity, increases their ability to connect deeply with their children, and supports a process of inner healing to shift how they relate to parenting. Each module offers unique grounding and embodiment meditations, lectures full of both evidence-based and practical content, and supplementary exercises to support in the implementation of new skills. Parents who have taken this course report walking away from the experience feeling relaxed in their being and confident to parent their children in a way that both feels most true to them as a parent, as well as most supportive for their children. If this resonates with you as a parent or simply for yourself, we are excited to offer our listeners $100 off of this transformational course. Click the link in our show notes, which goes directly to the Rooted Rhythm Tuned In course website, and enter the discount code DEEPLIFE, all one word, to receive $100 off of the Tuned In course.
It's fascinating, and it really
is.
I want to get into that though, because I was having a conversation the other day with a family member, and I was explaining quantum healing and quantum, physics, which this is proven. Like, the quantum field is scientifically proven. And she said to me, "Did you make that up? Is that a spiritual thing?" And I said, "I wish." No. And so now I'm thinking, like, oh gosh, all right. Like, how do
where
I
to go now?
Yeah. So let's kind of get into that and get into the
Sure.
idea. Like, I know that you've been diving deep into this, and Dan loves this concept on, the law of assumption, and that everything in the universe has already been created.
Yes.
Dan loves this because he loves Neville
I
Goddard.
go deep on Neville Goddard.
For sure.
Read all his books and listen to them all.
Yeah.
Why not? Everybody
I love
should.
the idea. Yeah. And I love the idea. I love the idea that, well, it's not an idea, but the concept that everything's already created. So you can tap into your highest timeline. You can achieve whatever you want to, as long as you know how to access it.
Totally. Yep.
But I know that the accessing part is something that is really the process of, like, learning that. So if I'd love to hear, your thoughts and any way how we can kind of manifest this reality that anyone wants, whether that be, a job, a family, just overall happiness, whatever it may be, artistic talents, you name it, it's out there if you want it.
Yes. So I think most importantly is that manifesting is really difficult when we are in that lower frequency state.
Yes.
No matter how bad we want it, if
Yes.
we are inundated with all of the daily stuff and all of the things and all the emotions and all the traumas and all of the past, it's going to be really difficult for us to see the light at the end of the tunnel. I do think that most people who know that there's a light somewhere out there, at some point, there's almost like this. It's a download that people get where you kind of are like shaking it all off and you're seeing again, and you say to yourself, "Whoa! Like I was in deep in all of these different aspects. So I need to get those sorted out so that I can move forward." That's step number one. It's like, you got to sort your stuff out.
Yeah, absolutely. There's only so much, positive affirmations will get you until you look deep within your trauma or whatever you want to call it.
Especially if you're not in the place to truly accept those affirmations. Like, if you're just saying affirmations, but you don't believe them, I think you're probably doing more detriment than good, because you're just reinforcing that you don't have those things.
Have it.
Not who you want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really, I love when this happens to me. I will be working in a session with a client, and I do a lot of not just acupuncture, but like we do a lot of energy work, right? And as soon as I put my hands on people, I start getting like the downloads of like important messages. And what will often happen is something will come through, and I will even say in my own mind, I'll be like, whoa, that was deep. And it unlocks something new for me, as well as the person that I'm working with. Then so often, and this just happened with me the other day, I realized that I had the Neville Goddard, the book on awareness, and I just hadn't read it yet. And I pulled it out, and I'm reading. I'm like, well, gee, like this is word for word what I have been saying to all of these people in these sessions. And the biggest part of that is this: we can't manifest anything without connecting to the feeling of it.
Feeling is, yes, everything.
You must connect with the feeling of being it, of having it, of experiencing it. And this is the key. The feeling it part is the key to getting to that highest timeline category that I talked about earlier. Mm-hmm. You can't get there until you connect with the feeling of who that person is and who that version of you is. So I often recommend to my clients at some point in working together to start the process of connecting with the feelings.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Whether it's through meditation, whether it's through just quiet time when you're visualizing, our imagination is the key to it all.
Yes.
The imagination is like this gift to us in the human world, because it is something that is completely unique to each one of us.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that is so cool.
It's so amazing. And knowing the idea that everything in creation is already in place. It's all coexisting. There really is no past, present, or future. Everything is accessible all right now. Yep. But again, you can't jump levels without doing or taking certain steps along the way just because you want to.
Right. Yeah, you don't.
It would be great if we could.
Yeah.
But it's not easy, So believing, feeling, accepting, allowing, trust is a big concept, I think. And that's a high frequency, that's a high energy state to exist in, is trust. Ultimate trust in not only other people, but trust in the idea that there is all of this available to us, and we can get to any of it as long as we connect with the right feelings.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's something like intuitively, like as a personal trainer, I started telling people that like you're not capable of achieving your goals right now, but you can become the version of yourself who is capable of achieving your goals, and then goals become inevitable. Because I think we tend to think of it the other way, where it's like, okay, if I can do this, 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 and this, then I'll become this person, this new version of myself. But it's the other way around. It's like, if you can become that version of yourself, then all the other things are just going to take care of themselves, because you're basically jumping to that timeline, becoming that.
That is it, 100%, Dan. I think that's the way to sum it all up. You have to become.
Yeah.
You have to become that,
Yeah, absolutely. And you had mentioned kind of at the beginning that, you're learning and constantly getting new knowledge. And I think that I love this concept, because I'm so into that right now that, even though, I graduated middle school, then high school, then college, like I feel like I don't even know what I learned in school, that I am just in the school of life right now. And everything around me, every person, every circumstance, every situation is my teacher. Like Gaia is my teacher. Obviously Mother Earth, but I meant like the channel Gaia. And any
Got
shows
it.
that are on, I'm like, I've never
Yeah.
wanted to watch TV in the middle of the day, but I'm putting this show on so that I can take notes on it because I feel for where I want to, see myself. It's like, that's what's important to me right now. It's not that I didn't take skills away from being in school and understanding how to do, classroom things, but I feel so much more truth to the school of life, this soul school, this earth school that we're in right now, that I didn't realize was even a school in and of itself.
Yes.
And it's so powerful. And it's almost, I'm so grateful that I have the awareness. That's why I just want everyone to have this type of awareness too, because it can be, even though it's challenging, it can be really playful and fun. And
Totally.
as it should be, I
Yes.
don't want to sit at a desk for 10 hours like I did when I was at Hyatt. I was just like, I feel like I had a midlife crisis before I was 30.
Yep.
And it was
I mean,
over
is
this.
that really what the human experience is supposed to be? I think I posted on my Instagram at one point, where the human experience is not meant to be behind a desk or, all day long. It's, I very much believe that it is supposed to be a playful, fun, enjoyable, creative experience.
Yes.
But then it, that also leads to questions that I ponder, which is, why isn't it? Why is it the way that it's been for such a long time?
It's a great question.
Yeah, it's a really interesting question.
I have so many theories,
I think Dan does too.
Right? Well, tell me one of yours.
Yeah. Well, I do think a lot of it, and I used to get really, really deep into, I even hate the term, but like conspiracy theories and like sort of these ideas of whatever's going on behind the scenes. And I try not to give too much attention to it now, because I've realized that that's what they want, is us to talk about it, because then it manifests.
Yeah.
But I do think that up until now, there has been a lot of systems put in place to keep us away from our potential. Like you were saying before, like the sun is what's upgrading our DNA, but people are afraid to go in the sun because they think it's going to give them cancer. So
Correct.
We're covering ourselves in toxic chemicals to block out the sun, and we're staying away from like not eating cholesterol, where we need cholesterol to turn the sunlight into vitamin D. Like all these things that can't be coincidences, because I don't believe in coincidences. But yeah, I'd like to hear your take on it.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And I don't like the term conspiracy theory either. Around 2020, things really got heated where it's like, well, that's not science, that's not fact, that's not. Right. And so there was just so much finger pointing and negativity being spewed out at people just for thinking outside of the box. The bottom line is this: like, I don't think anybody can deny that until they choose to break free, we are programmed. Right. From the time that we are born, we are programmed into a certain methodology and a certain way of thinking and behaving and operating. And tying things back to Chinese medicine principles, everything is about yin and yang, positive, negative, male, female, good versus bad.
Yeah.
Good versus bad. That's let's refer to Star Wars, the movie, the originals. It's good versus bad. It's playing out all around us on every level. And until we choose to pull ourselves away and out of the deep programmed state, we just exist within it. And it blows my mind that I see so many souls on this planet operating from a place of really deep programming.
Yes.
And that's where we have, when we're trying to help a family member because we know and we believe in what we're doing, and they say like, you just made that up, well, that response is a conspiracy theory to me,
Right.
So
I'm gonna steal that line, Jesse.
it's just so interesting. But
Yeah.
I was going somewhere with that, and it'll probably come back to me. But
No, absolutely.
the bottom line is, okay, so when I think of all of the different levels and dimensions, and maybe I'll jump back to like the 3D versus 5D thing, because I didn't really dig in a whole lot into that. But
Yeah, that would
so
be great.
we know that we exist in a three-dimensional reality in this human lifetime. Though my understanding is that we also exist in every other dimension above us, okay?
Yes.
Coming all the way down from source. But even then, isn't there an infinite number of octaves of dimensions? Like, does it ever really end, you know?
Mhm.
It's all about frequency. It's all the state of the frequency state in which we are operating. So the 3D world, many will say that many of us chose this experience. We chose to break a piece of ourselves off from one of the higher dimensional versions of us, right? So that we could come down to earth and experience the school. Well, 3D is the dimension that has polarity. It has the good or the bad. And it's very, in all of the schools in the universe, the earth one is said to be the most challenging,
Toughest.
It's
I know. I hear
the
that all the time.
hardest. Yeah.
Think so. Yeah, learning my lesson.
Right. And I believe that there's an element of utilizing the quantum field in order for us to have a specific experience. So I'll elaborate on that a little bit more. We choose to incarnate here on earth, right? A couple of things happen. Number one, we say, all right, I'm doing this. I'm gonna go all out. And we set the parameters for just how bad it's going to get.
Yes,
right?
we do.
Because we're not going to experience that anywhere but here. So why would we come here and do it easy? We're going to do it right. And we know that we're not going to remember anything. And we're going to go through successive lifetimes of redoing the same themes over and over and over again, just in different combinations of personalities. At some point, though, then I'll also say this. 3D Earth, I believe, has a specific quantum frequency that is being generated intentionally.
Yeah. Yes.
So that we are deeply programmed, so that we're in it. And we may have to go through 1,000 lifetimes before we finally raise our consciousness high enough to be like, oh, I think I'm starting to remember something here. I think there's something more than what I'm doing in this reality. And in the course of what we'll call history, let's look at the people who figured this out and mastered it. They are what we call the ascended masters, right? The people who came to Earth, got through all their life cycles, and reached an incarnation in which they figured it out. Buddha reaches enlightenment, right? Jesus is a great example of an ascended master. All these teachers who figured it out and made it their sole mission to spread that across humanity. So unfortunately, though, like the program the program has us. It's got us in its grips. And so all of these, not all of them, many of these messages either got misconstrued, probably intentionally, manipulated, changed, or just shut out of history altogether. Like, let's just not talk about that.
Yeah.
And what it takes, though, to break free from that is us as an individual soul finally leveling up high enough to like see above the clouds and to realize that there's something different happening, right? And from there, all of the choices that we make are going to align us with understanding the bigger picture and how to get out of the polarizing nature of 3D Earth. Because when we raise our frequency high enough, we begin to operate within a fifth dimensional frequency. And my understanding again is that the last place that we have human form is in the fifth dimension. Beyond that, we take on shape and form that is not going to be looking exactly like a human, right?
Yeah.
So we're in this 3D state, and 3D has all of its different levels and gradients to it. Fourth dimension is more of like a transitory state. It's where maybe thoughts and ideas and all of that dream state. But we don't really hang out in fourth dimension all that much. We go up to 5, right? And many people experience fifth dimensional moments when they are here in the 3D. We can go back and forth. The difference between the fifth dimensional state and the 3D, the biggest one is that 3D is the fear frequency, the fear and control frequency, and then 5D is love and light, no polarity, like highest self. So I believe our highest self, our higher self, and our highest timeline is existing within that fifth dimensional reality.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it is that higher self is calling for us, and eventually it may not be this lifetime, but in some lifetime you're going to hear the call loud enough, and you're going to make your own conscious shift and change your mindset and change the way that you behave and change the way that you view reality so that you can meet up with that version of you. And the ultimate win to the game is to do it in this lifetime.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, let's get it done.
Yeah.
You said it beautifully. You really explained
Yeah.
it awesomely.
And I just wanted to add, like, for people who are listening who might not be fully grasping it, like, this is all here. It's the same Earth, right?
For sure.
And it's
Yeah.
just a different dimension, as in almost like a different perception. Like, you're able to perceive more.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly like you were saying, Jesse. Like, if you're in that fear, anxiety, I need to control every situation, every outcome, I need to know. That's very ego, small self with a smaller case S. Like, that's the 3D. But once you can, either awaken and just transcend a little bit and feel that love and that light, that trust, that inner knowing, that's the fifth dimension. But yeah, it's not like a new planet. I thought that for a while, years ago, and it's like, oh no, wait a minute, the new Earth, this fifth dimension is arriving through me. It's me.
Correct.
It's through me. It's through all, and again, not just me, all of us.
Yeah.
Right. Well, so to piggyback off of Dan's comment just now, it made me think of the fear that can come from hearing stuff like this.
Right.
Yes, you're right. Yes. Yeah.
And it's a delicate, it's sometimes a delicate conversation, and it's a delicate topic for a lot of people, because it may make an individual feel like, oh, they're steps behind, and like, oh, why am I not thinking this way yet? Or there may be some people who are like, that's just crazy talk, and I want nothing to do with it. And that's okay.
Yeah.
It really is okay. What happens is, as we elevate our own consciousness and we tap into that fifth dimensional frequency as often as possible, it's not really likely that we're gonna sink ourselves back down to a lower level of operating. So when we get ourselves up high enough, then again, the universe is always going to match what we are giving out. So the people who we don't vibe with anymore, they're not going to really be around. They're just not going to present themselves. They become background characters that maybe they exist in my sight line, but I'm never going to interact with them. They're never going to be a part of my reality anymore, because we are so far apart in our frequencies that it's like it's repelling forces.
Yeah. You're
So
living in a different world.
yeah, but on this same planet.
Right, exactly. But you see them, you walk by them, or
Yeah.
you just, yeah.
Totally.
Absolutely. What a fascinating concept. Oh my gosh. So I kind of to wrap up, how can we navigate this, like, for everybody who's, in this 3D world, like fear, anxiety, this is certainly something that is an expertise of yours that you have worked with thousands of people on, how can we at least alleviate some of this anxiety, or what modalities or practices could you share that you typically help people with?
Yeah, definitely. It's a great question, because we all need the resources. We need the knowledge of what to do.
Yeah.
So,
and Jesse, not to cut you off, but just before this, I mean, I still have anxiety, of course, but I used to be, oh my gosh, my anxiety was off the charts. I come from a very, very anxious family, like my mothers and aunts and cousins, my grandmother, everybody. In college, it was the worst. And all I was told was, don't think about it, have a different conversation, get your head anywhere else that could be.
yeah.
And I know now it's the complete opposite, that I have to feel these feelings. I have to feel it to heal it. And I suppressed that anxiety for so long, as many people do, right? Either take a pill, take a drug, or alcohol, whatever you want to do to numb it out. But that only gets you so far. And I do not mean to, make anyone feel bad who's listening to it, who experiences anxiety.
Absolutely not.
It's the majority of the world, but you can't escape this.
Right. Yeah. And thanks for sharing that, because it's important that, again, people, when they listen to this, it's not ever intended for somebody to feel isolated or to feel like they are doing something wrong, because
Never.
That's not what it's about at all. And also, I will say for you, Elise, like, you're in a very unique opportunity in this lifetime to break generational loops, right? And so that's big. That's really big, that we consciously choose to break out of our patterned behaviors and loops. In terms of things that we can do, right, from maybe a novice level up, but there's no denying. I don't care. Anybody can have the argument with me, and you're not going to win. The body is very first and foremost energy.
Yes.
So if you want to start feeling different and better and shift your consciousness, you start at the energetic level. So you find modalities that help you to understand your body's energetic systems, and then work to rebalance those energetic systems. So acupuncture, Reiki, sound healing, these are all modalities that you're going, if you're not already hearing more and more about them, it's coming, because there's a big shift in how people are perceiving their health and what needs to be done to optimize physical and emotional well-being. Meditation is probably one of the most valuable tools that we can all practice. And there are so many different variations of meditation. So somebody who's not really into the idea of going into a dark room and sitting lotus style and like going into a silent meditation, you don't have to. There's other methods. There's other ways to practice mindfulness and meditation while you are even active. There's walking meditation. I practice walking meditation all the time. I can go 5 miles and feel like I've been out for 2 minutes, because I'm in a meditative state during that process.
Yeah.
So meditation.
I have very meditative states when I wash dishes. That's
right.
Like, I just go into the zone. I get so many downloads. Dan will be like, you want me to wash the dishes? I'm like, no, I got it.
I'm good.
It's just, finding your own.
Yep. Totally. I encourage those individuals who are really relating to these conversations and are at this same level, I think that the bigger message is, okay, so how do we give this to as many people as possible without violating anybody's free will?
Mhm.
Big one.
And so it's really just like, we have to be it. We have to be the shining beacon, example, leader, guide, whatever we can be to help lift as many people up as possible. Because just even though there's 3 billion or however many billion people on this planet, it wouldn't take long. It's that whole 7 degrees of separation, right? Like,
Yeah.
one person can tap into probably 7 people every day
Yes.
and start giving them that energy. It's going to just spread really quickly around the globe. And it already is.
Mhm.
We just have to be patient and know that nobody is really at the exact same level of the game. And so, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be constantly striving to go a level higher for ourselves. Everybody's on their own journey, right? So you can't force somebody to jump up to your level, but you can hold out your hand and say, like, when you're ready. So those are big things. I think exercise is just one of the most beneficial things that we can do for our body, is just keeping it in a state of movement, because everything in this universe is a frequency, that's a wave that is moving, right? Nothing is supposed to sit still. And even when we are sitting still, things are moving within us, right? So exercise, taking care of your body, giving it what it needs, practicing the modalities that will help both the physical and energetic body, and allowing your imagination to just kind of like go where you want it to be, and know that it's okay. Like that's allowed. Like, just because we're adults doesn't mean that we can't still have that same brilliant imaginative process that we had when we were children.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Even if you feel that way, you are actually imagining things. You're just imagining like negative events and make you anxious, or things that make you scared. It's like, why not? If you're going to be imagining something anyway, why don't you imagine something beautiful and exciting that lifts you up?
Exactly. And that's what breaking out of the program is.
Yeah.
It's choosing that and choosing to not play that same old game anymore. I'll say that I think there's a big power in getting things out. You had mentioned, at least, that like you pushed the anxiety down, you've kept it in, and we all know, like, that creates a ticking time bomb. It's like the kettle is gonna blow. And so I find incredible value to journaling, to voice memos. When I'm on a hike, I might be talking to myself out loud, and that's okay.
God, you said that, because I talk to myself all the time. He thinks I'm crazy.
Like, I know she's crazy. And then she also talks to herself all day long.
I'm not up a mountain. I'm just like in the driveway talking to myself.
Or that's great. She's doing dishes. I'll look over and she's deep in conversation and there's no one else around.
Yeah. I think that's great.
But it's like, I'm talking it out. Yeah. I'm talking it out with myself.
Yeah, totally. Like, why keep things trapped in? That's another thing that we're programmed to do, is to like hold things in and trap it, and trapping energy within us that isn't cohesive with where we want to be. It's a complete block in our way to getting what we want.
Yes. Everything is energy, right? If you store that negative energy, like you exactly said, it's a ticking time bomb.
Go somewhere.
And that's where like the dis-ease in your body comes from. It's all connected.
It's so simple. It is so simple when we actually look at just how everything transpires and what dis-ease actually is. It's so simple. And in the modern world, we have managed to manipulate that and turn it into something more complex than it needs to be, and ineffective as well.
Absolutely.
So we're on the precipice of a major shift. I feel it. I know it. I know that it's here. We are, it's like the new dawn. The sun is finally peeking over the horizon, and it's going to shed this beautiful light on all of us. And it's just a matter of time before everybody gets to bask in it, you know?
Oh my, absolutely.
Yeah,
and
beautiful.
what an amazing way I feel like to end this conversation, unless you have any last minute, anything that we didn't touch upon that you feel is.
Oh gosh.
I know.
No, you know,
You can always do a part two.
Yes, I just looked at the clock and I was like, and it's funny that you said that, because before we came into this recording today, I was like, you know, we could probably end up doing like 2 or 3 parts to this and go off into like, because I've already stopped myself like 4 other times from going off on a tangent, you know. But that's super fun to me.
Deeper and deeper with each one.
Yes, right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
but
why not? I think that'd be great for everybody involved. No, I think that we've covered so much great stuff, and hopefully it's shedding some light on things from in a different perspective for the listeners. And I guess beyond that, I'll throw out like you know, a plug for myself. I share a lot of this content and these concepts and ideas through my Instagram account.
Yes,
so that's where you can find all the good stuff, and you can learn things, and you can get in touch with me. So Jesse Warner, JESSE Warner.quantum healing.
Awesome.
That's where you can find me. And there's a link in my bio for the virtual programs and what I do. And there's a lot of good stuff there. I would be more than excited and thrilled to open conversations with people if they feel called to do so.
Awesome.
Yeah, we'll link to all that in the show notes.
We'll put everything down there.
Right.
Just again, thank you for being a light and shining, and thank you for being so open and honest and sharing all this amazing wisdom and knowledge, because it's truly inspirational.
I cannot thank the two of you enough for allowing me the opportunity to say all of that and to have a platform to reach more people. It's really special what the two of you are doing. And I love your podcast. I love your guests. I love everything about it. And I would love the opportunity to come back someday.
Absolutely, Jesse.
Definitely.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.